What was my bleaker thing? No, whatever.
Here
All
we
right,
go.
here we go.
All right, we're live. What's up, guys? John Sentes here, Cass Kreitlow, Cutternation Podcast 72. We've got another one coming strong for you guys, another local here in San Diego, Sam Peraza. But first, don't forget, please go rate, review, and subscribe. It helps us spread the channel and get the information out there. I'm really excited that we've started getting local into the San Diego community lately and get a lot more coaches that can, speak directly to our area. So, Sam, I appreciate you coming on. Sam's the pitching coach at San Diego State University. Sam, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your coaching history and how it all got started?
All right. Hey, I appreciate you guys having me on. First of all, I know I've had a couple conversations with Kaz, and some of the things he's doing is pretty cool. And I've seen you guys on Twitter and social media content you guys have. Really trying to help out our San Diego community. And I know I haven't had a chance to go down to your facility, but I promise I'll make my way down there. And it's pretty cool stuff, man. Pretty cool stuff. I love all the new teachings you guys are having. And as a coach myself, kind of an older school coach, it's cool for me to learn as we get through some of the also love it. So anyway, so for me, I got involved in baseball. I'm kind of a junior college guy. I went to junior college out of high school. I ended up coaching. My first coaching gig was at the junior college I went to, which was El Camino Junior College out in Torrance. I was coaching for Greg Bergeron, who is, kind of made his way around. He's with Washington State right now. Coached for his dad for a year under him. After that, I made my rounds over to Oklahoma State, Eastern Oklahoma State College, which is a small junior college, Division I junior college out in Southeast Oklahoma. That was a culture shock for me, being from Southern California, trust me. But I had a lot of really cool experience with the guys there. Really had a great year and a half there. Was there for a year and a half. After that second year, I had a guy, Vince Barrenhealy, was at UCLA for 20 years. He brought me to Cal State LA, got my first taste of NCAA baseball coaching. It was Division II. A great experience I got from there, obviously, just learning how to maneuver my way through the Division II era, the scholarships, bringing guys in, the funding. I thought I had a really good experience there. My first head coaching gig came at Cal State Northridge with Matt Curtis for a year. We had a really good year there, won the most games we won there in 20 years. And it kind of led me to Florida International, went across country again, got a chance to see another part of the country. Florida International down in Miami with a legendary coach, Coach Turtle Thomas, probably one of the best recruiting coordinators ever out there. And that was really, really cool experience. We had 4 big leaguers on that team, current big leaguers, got a chance to recruit really high-profile guys. Recruited Nate Pearson, who's throwing 101 miles an hour now for the Blue Jays. That was all pretty cool. And then I came back to my alma mater, where I finished my playing career with San Diego State, which was a wonderful opportunity for me, going on my 5th year at San Diego State. My family loves it here. We really built a pretty cool family atmosphere there. I got a 4- and 6-year-old that are always around the ballpark nonstop. I mean, Kaz has been there a couple times and he's seen them nonstop. They come right after school. They come before our games. So, Coach Martinez, I was lucky enough to be hired by Coach Martinez, and he's really built a family environment there, which is second to none in my opinion.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm a Florida boy myself, so I've actually played at FIU, not in college, but just different spots. So it's cool to hear where all you've been, driven through Oklahoma and everything. So everything okay?
Yeah, I lost you for a second there. I'm trying to get you back, so sorry about that.
No worries.
I lost the audio for a second, but I got you. I'm getting you back in here now.
All
okay,
right.
Go ahead. Back on track.
There we go. All right, it's all good.
Okay. Happens.
We're no pros. It's no big deal. Part of the show. You get all the ins and outs from it. So we followed you guys. We actually brought our organization over to a game last year. It went well. I think that's real important for young kids to see the game at the college level, at the highest level, and see the different levels, especially with junior colleges being right here. And, you got your spread of really, if you can start understanding where the game is, I think kids don't necessarily compare themselves to the different levels and see how it is. And you guys are starting off hot. I mean, 10-6 to start. That little spill right at the end, but you guys play a rough schedule. Last year we saw the Oklahoma game, and then this year you got Iowa, Nebraska, USC. Like, woof.
Yeah. Yeah, it was by design, man. Well, the cool part is, since I've been here, I do the scheduling. Since I've been here, going on my 5th year, we've always had to play our conference twice. It's been an unbalanced schedule. And this year, Boise State came into the conference. And what that did for us, and if people don't understand this, it really opened up our schedule. We went from playing everyone twice, 32 conference games, to playing everybody once and going 21 conference games. So we used to start conference play the 3rd week of the year. We kind of had an opener, our Tony Gwynn Classic, conference play. What it did at this point is we don't start conference till April. So it opened up the first 7 weeks for us to really load up our schedule. And it was done by design. Last year was the first year of it. And this past season, it's too bad we weren't able to complete it, but we were loaded up. You should see our schedule next year and loaded up through that as well. Got a trip to Florida happening. So it was by design, and it gave us a chance to test us. We've been to 5 regionals the last 7 years. And we really feel that in order for us to make a push into a super regional, we had to find out what we had in line with the best of the best. And I thought our kids handled it really well, really well. If it wasn't for a couple mistakes we made at the end of the Oklahoma game, they tied that game up. We had a lead in the 8th inning, 1-run lead in the 8th inning with our All-American closer on the mound. And two unfortunate errors. It was a rainy day. Happened by our second baseman, threw 2 away, 1 to tie it, 1 to win it in the 10th. We could have got out of there with 2 out of 3 at Oklahoma, to finish this shortened season. And I think could have probably seen ourselves in the ranking. It would have been 3 games out of 4 from national ranked teams that week alone. So we're excited. We're excited what we have coming up in the future.
Getting stuck in player development, I do not think about that enough. I just haven't spent a lot of time thinking about. Yeah. You impact the kind of schedule that you're having. Like, that's such a unique kind of thing. Obviously at the lower levels it's to a degree, but that's also like geographical. Like, that's so you don't think about that at the big league level. Like, man, that's a whole entire like mind game in and of itself.
Yeah, you know what? We opened up the season at Coastal Carolina, and if you see, we were the first game. So we traveled across the country, got there on Thursday. We were the first game in college baseball, 11 a.m. start, East Coast time, which was 8 a.m. for us, which we were taking batting practice at, 8:30, 9 a.m., which was 6 a.m., which we got up at 5 a.m. our time. And our guys having a come from behind win, I think kind of showed to their character how they fought and everything we prepared for. So I was so excited about this year, so disappointed with what happened. Just those type of
Can't imagine.
Those types of comebacks and going across country, getting 2 wins was really going to prepare us for what the season had in store.
Yeah, I'm really close with the Hamlin coach back in Minnesota, the D3 head coach, and like he said, that's maybe the hardest conversation he's ever had with a bunch of kids.
Yeah, it was. It really was. And luckily for us, we only have 3 seniors. We were a really young team. 2 of the 3 are going to come back. I do see 1 possibly signing as a free agent. Who knows? But it's not, we have some teams that have about 10, 15 seniors that really have to work some numbers, and it's going to be really overly crowded next year with everyone coming in. But we're in a good position. We only had 3 seniors. I think we're in good shape moving forward in the future.
That's great. It's interesting to see how everybody's navigating this weird time and the rosters that are different and stuff. And I was a 5th year senior guy, and I don't know if I would have come back to school if I had a chance to go pro or sign as a free agent. Knowing how that process is and how unique it is, especially if somebody was really giving me a chance, like, hey, you might go in, even if it was like the late 20s or something, to be like, I don't know, so I respect that guy,
Yeah, it's all about educating them and what they are leaving, what they possibly could have the following year. And we're honest with our guys, man. If we feel you're ready and this is a good chance, and really staying back a year is not going to really improve your draft stock or whatever bonus you may get, then go ahead and sign. Like, we want you to go ahead and sign. And that's why I say one of them possibly could sign. It makes more sense for him, kind of an older guy, for him to kind of move on if he gets the opportunity. The other two guys, I think they benefit from coming back. I think that the position doesn't change from where they would be this year as opposed to next year. If anything, they could just improve their stock.
Yeah, totally. So let's get into your team, you know, and what the philosophy is. I know we talked about I heard you talk about family, which is great, on the culture. You know, pitchers specifically, the culture that you try to help these guys. You got an incoming freshman coming in. What are they going to expect from San Diego State?
Oh, they're gonna expect an accelerated education process. So we are demanding of our freshmen coming in. We have them take at least 15, 16 units coming in. We're trying to accelerate their graduation process. We've had success with that. Most recently, we've had two guys. One, Alan Trejo, he's playing for the Rockies right now. In Double-A, we had Greg Allen, who's a big leaguer. He's a center fielder for the Cleveland Indians. Both kids graduated in 3 years and went to their first spring training with their college degree. So that's kind of the model we're trying to follow. We get the guys 15 units to start, you know, both spring and fall semesters. Plus, we're looking for kids that are coming in with some college courses. You know, we have a great summer program that we bring in some high school kids into. Basically, they take 2 classes in the summer. Both are 3-unit classes, so it's 6 units. They got all the help they could get. They have counselors that are walking them through their entire syllabus. And it's kind of an introduction to college. So they get to lift with our strength coach, which is, as you guys know, huge. So they lift with our strength coach in the morning. They go to their 2 classes. They basically all have all the help they could ask for to get 2 A's in those classes. So if you're a freshman coming in with, let's say, 6 college units, right? Two courses that in high school. Now you take our 2 classes in the summer. You start your freshman campaign with 12 units. Now we give you 15 and 15. Now by the end of your freshman year, you're 40 units into this thing. You're a third of the way done. So that's kind of the model we have our guys. So first and foremost, education, you know, it's going to be an accelerated process. When the kids come in, they really get introduced to the weight room. I don't care how much lifting they've done in the past, you know, they feel like they're prepared. They're really not prepared because they're being pushed by not just 1, 2, but by 35 other guys. And they really push each other to another level. Our strength coach, James Chasen, unbelievable job. Love him with the pitchers. So that's another kind of shock for the guys. The throwing wise, I think it's been getting better. You know, as I go through the years, when I first used to get a freshman, going from throwing in 6th period high school baseball to bringing them in to throw 6 days a week and being a 7-day plan where they're doing something every day was a bit of a culture shock for them. But now with you know, they go to great places like your facility. They know what to expect. They're coming in a little bit more with knowledge of what to expect in a college game. So they're making that transition a little bit better. And I think that's where you're seeing the big jumps in velocities. They're not taking a big step backwards to take a huge step forward anymore. They're coming in pretty ready to go. So, and that portion of it, I think it's been good. And then just the competitive nature, you expect to compete and, you know, you got so many guys around you that are your own same level. You're there to win a spot, and everyone around you is pretty good. So a lot of the intangibles come into play, and that's where you see the kids, you know, the kids that blossom and the ones that don't.
Well, all of your staffs have had a lot of success. So what the heck are you doing, man?
It's simple, man. But basically, is we limit the free bases and we compete. It's the biggest thing. You know, I have that thing. For our guys, the biggest thing we talk about is you're going to be competitive. We treat it like a boxing fight. I've had some guys in some boxing background and said, hey, we're there to throw the first punch. We're on the mound. We have the ball. Don't wait to get hit in the mouth. Throw the first punch. You want to throw the last punch. You're going to get on the mound. You're going to be competitive, and you're going to limit the free bases. Let your team work. You know, we love strikeouts as much as anybody else, but we got to get to 2 strikes first before we could try to, you know, shoot for them. But we definitely preach limiting based on balls, you know, limiting wild pitches. We're trying to limit. We're trying to make the other opponent earn as much as they can. And I think the most recent success has been honestly just opening yourself up to different things. Like there's so much technology out there. And Kaz, you and I touched on this a little bit, is how much this game's evolved over the last 2 years, especially on the pitching side, right? Everyone's just getting so much better, throwing harder. There's so much help, so much technology out there. I've been opening myself up to everything out there. And what I try to do is try to use it as a tool, basically. It's like if you're going in the garage and you're building something, you don't always need a hammer. You don't always need a jigsaw. Well, you don't always need the Rapsodal. You don't always need the TrackMan. But I think it's good to have all those tools ready for different people. So all our guys do different things. I think that's been a big part of our success is not all our pitchers do the same thing. At any given time, I have 17 arms out there. We have maybe 3 or 4 different throwing programs happening at one time. So we all start the same, but if you go out there and see us throw, we don't all finish the same, and we don't all do the same steps, all the way back, all the way forward. Different guys are doing different things tailored to their needs.
Do you think that is, so I think it's more common, but I feel like I'd be naive to think that it's popular.
It's a different wave, right? You have your younger coaches that I think it's more common with, and we have our older guys that are still having a little bit of a hard time. It's still stuck on their ways. I feel like I'm kind of that in between guy. I'll be 41 years old here in a month, but I feel like you have to nowadays. Part of recruiting is understanding what these kids are doing before. So you have to educate yourself with it. I've been in the drive line. I've been, I love TPI. I love what Dr. Rose is doing with those guys. It doesn't mean that I, 100% agree with everything he's doing, but I'm pretty darn close. And, just everyone that's doing their thing, I think you got to educate yourself with everything that's going on. And if a kid comes in from your facility and the way you've taught them, and I like them that way, I don't want to take away something that they've done there with you guys, and say, hey, no, we're going to do it this way. So if a kid believes that, hey, throwing the ball behind his back and catching it with his glove and throwing it afterwards is what makes him better, well, we're going to find a way to incorporate that step in between our steps of throwing program. So I don't want to take that away from them. I want to make sure that confidence is such a big thing and belief is such a big thing on the mound. I want to try to incorporate everything we have in there. So yeah, it's common among the younger pitching coaches. I think some of the older ones are starting to come around and use as much as they can as a tool to help our kids out.
It's interesting how you use the tech and how you say that the guys do different stuff. And I totally agree because, we've had, 14-year-old parents that want to come in and jump on the Rapsodo. And you have that conversation with them where it's like, hey, listen, the kid throws 72 miles an hour, right? So none of these stats make any sense right now.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's not even the point of what we're doing. I understand that you might want to see if there is a little bit of an extra thing you can do, but your 14-year-old son's cutter is not that good, right? And it's not because of the spin rate. It's literally because he's too weak. He hasn't thrown enough. He doesn't, compete enough. He's twiddling thumbs, he's a controller pitcher, And so we have those conversations a couple times with people, and they just don't understand. They think it's like, I'm like, no, we don't need to do that,
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're familiar with the pitch logic ball, but we've been using it a lot lately, and it's a little bit different of a thing. And one of the reasons why I like it is because when in your catch play and your drill work, you can get spin rate and arm angle, things that actually matter, right? Like we don't know if a guy's cutting the ball, with this previous information until he got on the mound, right? If you could really see that the spin efficiency was off, you know what I mean? And you could kind of see it just a little bit, but it didn't really make sense. And as technology becomes, going the other way, like you're saying, where it's coming back to more of the middle, where we're starting to actually understand where we should be looking for this information, I think that, anybody is really going to be able to process this information better. And then we have 9 and 10-year-olds that are using the pitch logic ball to help them work with spin efficiency and arm angle and trying to match up better and start it from the beginning. And we were already seeing big differences in their progress from the beginning. You just cut down the learning curve. So,
Awesome.
with your guys in technology, where do you feel like that you gain the most with your pitchers utilizing that technology for who even kids have, you used it before and haven't?
I think everyone's different. I think there's some guys that get a lot out of video. So we record everything, right? We record our bullpens, our inner squads, our games. And what I tell our guys is the first month you're with me, if we watch 85% of what we record, that's about right. After the first month, if we're over 50%, we're in trouble. Okay. We can't get too consumed with it. So
I like that. I like that.
So it's basically there. And I tell them, hey, everything's going to be recorded. If you want to come back and archive and say, hey, I felt great my second outing in the inner squad, and my breaking ball didn't feel the same now, at least we could go back to it. So we have it, but I don't want you to get consumed with it. So video is a big part early for us.
Can I ask you about the cameras on that? Are you using Edutronic or are you using basic Sony's?
I'm trying to get an Edutronic, and this whole coronavirus is going to really slow us down. We were close to getting one, and now with the budget cuts, I'm still going to fight for it. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but
can I make a recommendation?
Yeah.
There's a Sony camera that does 1,000 frames per second, and it's only $1,000. I'll try to see if I can get you the number, the model number of whatever.
Shoot it my way, man.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, and it'll do exactly what you want.
So right now we just have kind of a Sony camera as well that we use in the bullpens area along with the Rapsodo, and then on the main diamond we have our bat system. So we use our bats camera, which are pretty high-end cameras. They're pretty nice. They're not like the Edutronic, but it gets pretty in-depth there and pretty close. So those are kind of our go-to cameras right now. But yeah, anything you could suggest, man, I'll definitely take it.
For sure, I'm big into this camera and tech stuff. We've been doing a lot, especially with the Pitch Logic ball and doing stuff, and we've been comparing a bunch of our data and stuff back and forth. And we just upgraded our lighting in the gym so we could get better stuff. And then just with my iPhone, because my iPhone actually does 240 frames per second, so I got what's called a light stand, which is basically the extender part of the tripod. Then we put a phone mount on it. It goes up to 10 feet high. So then I just angled it, put my phone in the window, and you can see, if you look on our social of me throwing cutters, you can actually see my hand roll off the ball and the seams go away.
Yeah.
So it's getting easier and easier. So I'd love to help you with that setup if that's something you need. It's very
we also use a Huddle app. Have you seen that Huddle app where you can kind of mirror people in there? Yeah, that was a big tool for one of our left-handers. Steven Brault, the left-hander for the Pirates, starting pitcher, he comes and throws with us all the time, which is awesome. He's really, really cool about talking to our guys, and we kind of mirrored his delivery with one of our left-handers' delivery, and really showed him that you could kind of keep your hips going towards the first base line and still be on time, because he's kind of a crossfire action guy. Steven is as well, and it gives him deception. But it was about how he gets his hips still turned around in time towards home plate. So that really helped one of our left-handers. We kind of mirrored both videos and send it to his app, and he was able to kind of dissect it and mirror what Steven's trying to do. So he took off and did a good job. So that's a big part of it. Some guys need the Rapsodo, some guys need the TrackMan in order to see their stuff. Some guys don't need any of it. I have one of the smartest kids I've ever coached, as far as not on the field, off the field, is Trey Brown, who I love, had a great year for us, finally came into his own. School's doing a story on him. He's a pre-med kid. Took him a couple years, local kid from Chula Vista, East Lake High School. Took him a couple years to get going, but I'm so proud of him. He doesn't get to watch much video. He's kind of a jerky guy as it is. He doesn't get to get his readings much. For him, it's more about feel and being able to control his body and being able to be him, being able to be free, not try to mimic what other people do, because he's so analytical and he's such a smart kid that he tries. He thinks about it way too much in depth of these things, and he just can't. He needs to be him. He can't try to be somebody else. So. It's been 3 years, and man, that kid you talk about our shortened season happening. He was a kid that was going to be a draft guy for sure. No one's seen him, and he's at like a 1 ERA clip, hitting 92, 93, finally, being loose, being himself. So, he was a junior. We're going to get him back, but you know, I thought he had a chance to really put himself in pro baseball right now. But he's a guy that doesn't use anything. We don't use anything with him. We talk about pitching with him. We talk about what it feels like. You know, he has come into the office, and you know, when we stream our games, obviously Mountain West Network, and he comes in telling me, "Hey, I saw what I was doing." I'm like, "Okay, well, what did it feel like when you were on the mound?" I guess it felt fine. It didn't feel like I was doing that. I said, "Well, then keep doing what you're doing. Like, it's a feel thing for you. You're throwing strikes.
Totally.
You have a put away pitch." So, in terms of what we use, everyone uses different things. You know, everybody uses different things. I think the video is used pretty much across the board for everyone the first month of the season, and then it just depends after, or the first month of the fall, and after that first month it depends on who you are and how much you need it and what we're going to take from it.
That's a very simple use of technology, and I think people overlook that idea of technology. I had a conversation with a parent the other day. I said they were worried about the same thing, about, you know, there's too much tech, there's too much numbers, and baseball is not about technology. And I said, well, like, what about your phone? Is the camera technology? And she said no. And I said, well, actually, you know, it is. So that's a great use of being able to spread out, and you know, really, I like the idea of playing into people's strengths and making sure that kids who need to use it and don't. Like, I'm a nerd with numbers, so like, you tell me if my slider needs to be 2,800 RPMs and I need to spin it harder. Well, now it turns into a video game, and now I can try to see how much spin I can get on it, and then I see how that affects the distance and the action of it. Now I'm trying to make that shape, you know, and it sounds like you have a pretty good feel of that, and you can display that to your kids also. So that's important, you know. Do you utilize, we do this with our kids, but I think it's a little bit different in your area, but we point out with our younger guys to the older guys that are throwing in the same session, especially with college guys. Like, we may have a 7 or 8 year old throwing in the same time frame that they are, and we'll just point it out and be like, see how he loads down, and then his timing of when he rotates and how that works. And then vice versa. We might even have a college guy that's just like super pull off, doesn't really feel it, and you know, we'll point out a 9-year-old. Do you happen to do that with your seniors and your freshmen, where you're like using them as the example?
I do use them as an example for them to watch. Now, we always, one of the unique things in our program, and I kind of pride myself in this, that's why I'm gonna bring it up, is, and I have the luxury to do it, is we never, since about more than that, 6-7 years ago, I've never thrown a double barrel bullpen. So as recruits come in, I always tell them, hey, it's going to be one at a time. It's going to be you and I every single time. And we'll come in groups of 2, but one guy's throwing, one guy's watching or charting, and he takes over. And when we do our sit-down bullpens, a guy will throw his first set, sit down while the other guy goes, and then we vice versa. So we always go one at a time. And this is kind of just for us to always have our attention on him. I always have a couple guys helping me too, former pitchers of mine, just to have more eyes. But we do that. We have the guys that are sitting down. I try to pair up a senior with a younger guy, so he could kind of see the way, not only how his delivery is, but the way he goes about his business, the way he goes about his bullpen, with what type of focus. They're always competitive. We're always throwing the locations. We're always charting them plus, minus, and X. You know, whatever your location. If we're going to a down and away fastball, it's got to be a perfect location to be a plus. What ends up happening is the young kid looks at me and says, is that a plus or an X, right? Is that perfect or just a strike? And I usually tell them, hey, it's your decision, but he's going to charge you next. And whoever loses this thing is going to go ahead and clean this bullpen up at the end. So they start getting competitive. And, you know, we always try to do that, which means our bullpen start early, man. We get our guys out there before practice starts. We try to get them in a window where they have a little break in between classes. You know, our practice normally start at 2:00. If you're a bullpen guy on Tuesday, you'll probably come anywhere from 11 to 1 before practice starts, depending on your schedule, and just try to be individual attention for you before we actually start practice. So, but yeah, to your question, yeah, we do. We try to partner them up, older, younger, make sure that not only the mechanical part of it, but they see how they prepare, how they do their bands, how they do their long toss program, everything. I want them to understand how the older guys who've been through our program and our system, and, you know, I always tell them, hey, I'm here to help you coach yourself as you move and you get older. how they go about their business, and that helps the young guys as well.
How do you manage like the balance of like there's an obvious like sense of you creating a sense of professionalism with your players, like hey, like you're going to be a professional, so let's like act like it. But then there's also this dynamic of like getting them to play free, like so how do you address that?
You know, I think that we do a good job of that, and I think part of it is me having help all the time. You know, when as of 3 years ago, it was always, you know, a head coach, another assistant, sometimes a volunteer, all hitting guys, you know, coaching up 15 to 17 hitters. And there was always the pitching coach coaching up 17 to 20 pitchers, right, by himself. So I think it's taken a turn where we're seeing multiple pitching coaches or at least help in different programs. I have 2 guys that pitch for me, you know, Cody Thompson, Brett Seeberger. One was a draft guy, 10th round draft pick of the Cardinals, so he could share that experience. And one who might have been the better pitcher in college was a 4-year starter, bullpen, Tuesday guy who didn't get a chance to get drafted. He wasn't a pro guy, but he could share all his experience when it comes to coming out of the pen, starting Tuesdays, preparing for a Friday start, a spot start. So those guys help me keep it loose because one of them does the pre-workout stuff, which means the dynamic stretch, the J bands, leading up to the throwing program, you know, gets to chat with them, share their experience. I get them in the throwing portion of it, and the other one does the post throwing. So it gives those guys a chance to talk to different people, stay loose, you know, try to open up to just not me, know that there's other people they could talk to. And, you know, the first month of the year, it's usually we're going to be competitive. We're going to be really professional. And as it gets past the first month of the fall, just as video, we start loosening up the rope a little bit, you know, giving them a little bit of freedom. And they're kids. We always have to pull it back, you know, and I let them know, hey, I'm going to pull it back a little bit right now. I didn't like this, but it's okay. You're going to get another opportunity. And we start loosening it up. And it's all about maintaining that balance. So for me, I always tell our guys, you know, a perfect example is, hey, I'm going to call the pitches only because I have more time to study the hitters than you do based on classroom. Now, everything I call is a suggestion. I want you to know that you have the freedom to shake whenever you want. And you're going to talk to me about it. And I just want you to understand a good decision. I'm telling you what I'm suggesting. I think a cutter into this lefty works because, you know, he closes himself off and he arm bars, and I think we could really get in there. That's my suggestion to you. If you're not feeling that pitch, switch it up. You know, and I try to get them to understand that they need to do that. In the fall, when we're having our inner squads, I can't tell you how many times I tell them, hey, you're on your own, this hitter. Or I wait for the crucial pitch, the 2-2, the 3-2, the second and third bases loaded pitch. Say, hey, you're on your own. I want to see what they want to do in that situation. You know, so a perfect example of that was our closer. Casey Schmidt, you know, he's going to be a second, third rounder. He needed to freelance. So I literally let him call his own pitches in the fall. I said, and you could do it in the season. I don't care. I'm not going to call him. Well, he came back and said he wants me to call him because he knows the hitter and he'll shake me when he wants, which is fine. It worked out well, but he needs to freelance. He's got a big league cutter. You talk about Cutternation, big league cutter, 90, 92. And,
are you calling it freelance, by the way?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that idea. That concept is beautiful. Go ahead, continue. Tell me about his cutter. I'm already...
No. He wanted to go cutters away and backdoor him sometimes. And I was like, okay, no, let me just tell you, this guy dives over the plate or this guy opens it up. I think you could do it with him, you know? So it was just a matter of getting him to understand. And again, like we just used that term, freelance, and just do his thing, you know, and the more he did it, the more competitive he felt and the more ownership he took with his mistakes. So I think that's the big thing for our guys.
Does he front door it?
He does, yeah. He does.
That's literally how I made my career in Mexico. It was just front door cutters all day.
He's got a really good. It's like 90, 92. It's
and I can't wait to see it. What's his name?
Casey Schmidt. He's on every draft board. He's the best. He was ranked the best two-way guy in the country. Was
he an Eastlake guy?
Eastlake guy, yeah.
Yeah, I thought his name. I'd heard his name before.
Yeah, he's our third baseman. Starting third baseman in the closer.
Yeah, that's exciting. Well, hey, Can't wait to see it. I mean, anytime I hear a plus cutter, I get excited.
Yeah, man, that's what I actually, with you guys is in the Cutternation. I just think that's it's funny because if I ever had a facility or if I ever had an academy, I think I would try to steal your name. I know you guys have copyright shit over here, but I love the cutter. I think it's such a simple term for our guys to learn, and even guys that come in with sometimes not so great sliders that we turn into cutters, and even guys that do have good ones, I think they could benefit from shortening it up. I have a pro guy that's coming in that's working on one actually today. He comes in and we throw in our cage, once a week right now that it's a little open, and we're trying to get him a little cutter. I won't say his name, but he's working hard on it, and he's a pro guy, man. It comes out of his arm like nonstop. He picks it up like this, right? I mean, so I think it's such a easy. It's a simple term for the guys to know how we teach it, at least.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like we get our 9-year-olds rocking it, and they love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I just want to hear you talk about how you read hitters.
So I actually do this in the classroom with our pitchers. We get them in there and I tell them how I read hitters so they understand what I'm looking for. So what I tell them all the time is we're going to start from the ground up, right? The first thing, and I learned this from Coach Vince Barrenhealy. He was an old 20-year UCLA hitting coach, had Troy Gloss, Chase Utley, one of the best hitting guys out there. He's the head coach at Cal State LA. I worked for him for 5 years, and he was always about from the ground up. Right. So the first thing I want to see is where are the guys? Do they cross over the plate? Do they lock themselves, their hips? Do they open up? Do they stay straight? That's the first thing I see all the time. And that's what I tell our guys. Look where they're standing. I tell our catchers, look not only where they're standing in the box, but where they finish in the box. It's really important, more important where they finish than where they're standing. Kind of gives you an idea of what they're looking for. And then we just work our way up. Right. Then we start looking at the swing. Where is their placement in their stance? Do they have a high elbow, a low elbow? Where does the swing go from there? Where does the bat path take them from there? Is it a guy that we could go up in the zone? Is it a guy that we need to stay down in the zone because he's going to chop at things? And I want them to understand that. And then we start looking at film as far as what they could get to, what pitches they could get to, and can they get to a ball in the outer half? Can they get to a ball in the inner half? Once we're done evaluating, kind of from the ground up, I tell them, with that all being said, I'm going to suggest where I think your strengths hit their weakness, and that's how we're going to pitch them. But if your strengths are also their strengths, we're going to go with our strengths. If this guy still can handle the ball in, and that's where we throw, we still got to be able to throw in. We just have to be a little smarter about it. I tell our arm side guys, hey, if it's a righty guy opens up, still wants the ball in the inner half, I'm not going to take away that arm side run, that arm side sink for you. You just got to follow him. You got to understand where he finishes. If he finishes way open, well, you got to follow him in there. Okay, if he finishes way closed, then you have a chance to really stick it in there and keep it a strike. But it doesn't have to be a strike. Just follow what he's doing. Follow the hitter, and you'll be fine.
I think what I love about what you're talking about there is we talk about it all the time, and I don't think it's talked about enough, especially with coaches talking about intentionally throwing balls, or set up pitches, or understanding, like you're saying, you got 6 inches of run that we know you can't control, right?
Yep.
And one it's 3, one it's 6, one it's 8, right? So we got to find some consistent, feel of it and understand where you feel comfortable doing it, because as it sounds like you look for holes like I look for holes. The back foot changeup right on right is just devastating to hitters. And I think the reason why is because the way it comes out of the hand, and when you see in the hitter, you immediately think inside fastball. Yep. So, sinker guys, changeup split guys, I've watched so much baseball. I'm sure it sounds like you have too on it, but that's a pitch that we really try to make sure that our righties understand, like, this is an actual weapon. This is not a get me over, throw the chain up or the sinker where it is. If you can spot this thing and throw it underneath the barrel like this and have it action, nobody will hit you.
That is a tough pitch too. That is a tough pitch, not only to hit but to teach. And I think it's the mentality part in the pitcher. They have to trust it. They don't. Yep. The last thing they're thinking is, I don't want to hit this guy with a changeup in. So they have to understand that one of the things I tell our guys with our changeups, we have half our guys are changeups, half the guys are splits, right? We could get into that afterwards. But our changeup guys, I always tell them, and I stole this from Pedro Martinez, is it's a power changeup. You have a power changeup. It's not a finesse pitch. You're not trying to get it over. You are trying to throw this changeup by them. You got to keep the arm slot the same. It's a power pitch for you. No different than your power breaking ball. You're trying to get this thing through him. So, once they believe in that, and if they could do that pitch that you're talking about, I mean, it makes our job way easier, right? We look smarter. So that's awesome.
So the thing that seemed to do that in the World Series tremendously.
He's the man when it comes to that. It's funny, man, it's funny because he had to develop that thing in pro ball, right? Because when he was here at San Diego State, and I've talked to him on many occasions about this, right prior to the $1 zillion contract he just signed and got his house in Virginia, he was living in San Diego and coming to throw with us nonstop. And he's awesome. He's kind of a quiet guy, and that is who he is. But when he's in the bullpen with our kids, he opens up freely, and it's great. And one of the things he talked about was he had to learn that changeup in professional baseball, because when he was at San Diego State and the lower levels, 100 slider, right? It didn't matter. You were left-handed, right-handed, it didn't matter. That's what it was. And as he developed that thing, he talked about putting the bucket where he put a ball bucket where he wanted to throw it. So whether it be into a righty, away to a righty, and he just always thought about landing it in the bucket. So the bucket was kind of just laying flat with a circle inside of it.
Oh, I love it.
Landing it in the bucket. And landing it and getting the back of the bucket to push backwards. So he said, hey, I'm going to try to get that thing with power so that bucket kicks out backwards. And it was a pretty cool conversation. So, obviously he does it really well.
But I have done that with kids in the past just as a thing. And kids love that. Just for the record, just as a different way to make throwing exciting.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Blow up that bucket.
We try to incorporate mini games a lot in things, whether it's a game that I've come up called 4-wall, which is, we have our box on our target. Each pitch you have to hit one of the walls on it, or, percentages, you got to try to beat 6 out of 10 throws of your pitches throwing them in the box, or, one-on-one competition. We try to gamify as much as we possibly can, because we just noticed that the focus and the attention seems to go so much better with guys when they're actually competing against another human instead of against themselves, and so from 9 to college, like everybody, the college guys, I'll get them razzled up or whatever. And I'll go, okay, well, let's go cutters only, above 81 and first to 3 on the bottom line. And they'll be like, all right, let's go,
Absolutely. Like it works in college too, man. That's why our bullpens are the competitive bullpens, and it's pretty cool. We the first month, I hate to admit this, but it sometimes becomes on running just to kind of prove a point. The first 2 bullpens, the loser, whether it be 12 sprints at the end, the winner has 6 sprints and the loser has 18. He takes his 12 in the 6th and he has to add it to him. And then what ends up happening is the evolution of it, which is really cool. I've had guys sit there and bet lunch with each other. Hey, if I beat you in this bullpen, you're buying me lunch.
Yeah.
So then they go get ready to do their running, and I'm like, hey, there's no running for you guys today. No, don't worry about it. It's like, oh, but I won. It's like, no, you guys are competing, which is what I wanted to see. So it's really cool when you can make it a competitive and a game environment. It takes care of itself.
Dude, it's such a good counter to like your personality. Like it's just so impressive, right? That's obviously what makes you as successful as you are. Is like, you know what I mean? Like if you're going to be locked in all the time, like creating this environment where that just like supplements it. It's really cool. So
yeah, that's why I try to keep the young guys around, man. I'm always going to do that. Like I said, we have 2 guys, and one just finished grad school. The other one's in grad school. The one that just finished grad school, Cody Thompson, I got to get him somewhere. He's going to be a really good pitching coach. And I got to get the new guy who wants to take grad school, and wants to be over there and be a pitching coach eventually to help me out, because I think it's a good balance. The older I get, I need to keep them younger next to me so they know, they kind of slow me down a little bit and tell me if I'm being unreasonable at times. And I think it helps, so. I think that's been a really important part of our success in the last few years.
Well, and I just highlight it because it's so you talk about teaching kids to, be themselves, learn how to be themselves. And, I'm a Minnesota guy. So like a PJ Fleck, and I look at a coach and I'm like, you are exactly who you say you are.
Yeah.
And all of your things reflect that. And so the more I get to know you, like I just hear these patterns over and over and over again. And then I see the trail of success behind you. And for everybody else listening, these are the things that you pay attention to. It's like, it's really impressive. So anyway, yeah. There were a couple of things else that we had talked about. I don't know if there's a segue. We talked about like screwing kids up. So yesterday we were talking about Bleecker. We were talking with Eugene Bleecker of 108, and he brought up Randy Sullivan and Lance Wheeler and just how everybody's coming together. Like there's a lot of conversations happening right now. And it seems to be that we're all going like, hey, we're all kind of doing the same thing here, and we're all kind of gravitating, which is cool, because I brought up that I don't know that it's happening in hitting as much. But anyway, so I can freely talk about a lot of the mistakes that I've made. But I don't know. Do you want to talk about just like some of the things that you got? We talked about it a little bit. I don't want to tell you where to start. You want to just go?
Yeah. No, I think we all learn from our mistakes, and we make mistakes along the way. For anyone that tells you that they didn't, it's they're lying to you, because I think we all
or just started coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I mentioned this guy to you, and he's our guy, Jacob Flores, who we were talking about early with Stephen Broughton, helping him out. He was a hard-throwing left-hander. He was committed to USC early. Some issues happened. We got a chance to get in there. He was 89, 90, coming out of high school, and I always 6'4", left-hander. Always thought to myself, man, I'm going to get this guy, the arrogant me, I'm going to get this guy to be 95, right? He's kind of funky. He comes from a 3/4 arm angle from behind the left-hander. He doesn't land on time, doesn't get inside 90, doesn't use his hips properly. So I'm already have the 4-year plan for him over there. He's going to thank me when he's a first rounder, right? So, and when he came in as a freshman, we started doing all those things. I wanted to get his arm a little bit shorter, get him inside 90 as he lands, make sure he's doing everything properly mechanically wise. I made him see some of the driveline stuff, and we got him to throw firmer. We also got him to get hit harder. He wasn't missing many barrels as a freshman, right? So it happened last year as a sophomore, where he started the same way. He didn't start very successful at the beginning of the year, and it really got to a point where I just said, screw it, man. We got 2 weeks to get back on track, or you're not going to pitch again the rest of the way. I mean, I can't use you right now. We need you. You're a sophomore now. I expected bigger things from you. And he said, well, I just don't feel comfortable. And I said, well, what makes you feel comfortable? Well, in high school, I used to jump that way. So we're going to go back to what you did. That's what we're going to go back and do. And, we had that clip with Steven and how he's athletic and he could still kind of be on time. He's got a little arm drag, but he's still not too far off upon landing, even if he's crossfire. We did some video work with him to fine tune some stuff, but really it was about letting him be him, letting him be when he had the most success throughout his high school career is how he felt. So he started going back to the funky arm coming behind you left-handed, went back to his original, 87 to 89, he'll touch the 90s. But if you look at the stats, he was like at a 1 ERA this year. He was really unhittable. You look at the numbers on the Rapsodo, the ball just disappears in the last 4 feet. It just has some hard sink, like true sink to it. He also keeps his four seam pretty true up top. And that was when he was being able to change the arm slot a little bit when he went up. And we just let him be him. And there was one of the games at Oklahoma, outstanding, how he was outstanding. He helped us win that game, helped us win so many games. A game against Oregon State, he came in and punched out 6 straight guys on all fastballs. I mean, they were just not seeing his fastball. And it was just, it just changed his career basically by letting him go back to what he did. So I think sometimes we get caught up in, hey, I'm going to get this guy to do this, I'm going to get this guy to do that, where we have to let them be them first. One of my biggest things, and I have talks with our head coach about it. He's like, hey, don't you think he needs to do this? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to let him see what he could do with what he does first. And then we'll talk about some changes that need to be made. But, in the case of Jacob, I screwed him up at the beginning. I did. I had a chance. I thought that it would help him to get to more of a traditional way. And it really was detrimental. I think letting him go back to what he did really was the defining point in his career. And he was a runner-up, an honorable mention last year as a sophomore, and he was on his way for all conference again this year. And, we'll get him back too, because he was on his way for a possible, 10 to 15 round draft guy. And with the draft possibly being 5 to 10 rounds now, there's a good chance we get him back as well. So, he's done a really good job. And then, not to make the story longer, but he's part of the culture that we have, because he's able to get freshmen and tell them, hey, you just got to be honest with coach and tell him how you feel, because this is what happened with me. I didn't tell him how I felt till the second year. And once I did, he let me be me. He's going to let you be you. We had that with one of our freshman lefty. So he was kind of stood as a mentor to those guys and let them know, hey, just be honest and do this. And, things are going to work out. So it's been really cool to watch.
It almost gets me emotional, because it's like, that's the moral of the story, right? Is like, you're teaching kids how to be themselves. You have to. And like, so that's what I love, that we're being transparent right now, because I think, as a coach, I have people say it all the time. I don't care how I present myself. There's going to be a level of intimidation just because us being a coach, right? And so like, trying to be approachable, especially with kids the way they are now, like, it's hard. Kids have a hard time making decisions, and kids have a hard time facing the reality of like, this conversation might actually not go the way that I want to, or it might, right? Yep. But they just get so beaten down. And I'm so guilty of this. I'm sure, like, gosh, I'm such a, you talked about being in the middle of where you're at. Like, I just feel so stuck in the middle, because I can so relate to players. I had a very tough time, a young time in my career. First and second year, I was just all over the place, and then just like kind of grew up a little bit. And then you go, maybe these things have to happen for a reason, right? And so, I hope kids listening to this understand that, like, you gotta think for yourself, because or things are gonna happen to you. And this is John's story. This is the story that Coach Peraza just shared. Like, gosh, there's learning things from every side. So I appreciate you sharing that, because it's not to sit and rag on anybody. This is real. This is part of the process, and you gotta be aware of it. So
yeah, they gotta know what pushes them to and how they get better, and they just have to be them. They got to take it little bits and pieces from everybody. It's again, it's a tool in a toolbox, and I love, I mentioned Dr. Rose over at TPI earlier.
Yeah,
I love some of his terms that he said. He said, hey, I'm, your athlete is the car. Think of it as a race car. He's the car. I'm the mechanic trying to help him do, trying to make this car function properly. As the coach, you're kind of the driver. The car is still the actual, thing that's going to be successful. You're just kind of steering the wheel and helping this guy go along the way. But they have to be them. They have to have the freedom to be them. Jacob was given that freedom, and that was who he was. I have two big 6'5" left-handers who played a huge part in what we did. Him and Christian Winston, if you look at our stat line, we had 16 games. They were in more than half of them, as bullpen guys. Another thing that we haven't even touched upon, credit to them. I love structuring our pitching staff from the back, forward, which I love our bullpen. And those guys could be starters very easily, but they're very dominant for a certain amount of time, and they believed in me and trust the process and believed in themselves, that had enough confidence that they could go in the pen, and it's not that big a deal. And they're both, big 6'4", 6'5" lefties, completely different. One over the top, one funky from the side, completely different throwing programs, completely different weight room programs, completely different bullpens, how we throw, their bullpens, and what sets we use and what routine we use for them. So if you look at them just up in person, you're like, wow, these are two big donkeys. But just the way we approach them on a day-to-day basis is just completely different. They're just completely different guys.
I have to say, it's completely refreshing to hear that, the atmosphere that I was in, I was at a Division I JUCO at Pensacola Junior College, and then went to the University of West Florida over Division II. It was a culture shock for me because the JUCO that I came from was, last year of draft and follow, no rules, 7 days a week, 7 hours a day. And it never felt like it was like I was dying. It was just so different. And like you said earlier about like the crash course of, how to go about your business. And the differences that I noticed in the Division II school that I was way more cookie cutter. And I didn't even realize it until later, So hats off to you, by the way, because it is very impressive that knowing the amount of kids that you have to monitor and keep going, and you're still able to becoming, kind of matching their personality with the programs that will work. So great job.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And part of it, I think a big thing for me was being able to, I've kind of had different experiences. I think that's really important for coaches as well. I think sometimes we get trapped in one place and that's it. And this is the way it goes. I'm really grateful for my junior college to Division I junior college, at Eastern Oklahoma, to a Division II, to the other part of the country in Florida, and had a lot of different head coaches that have, you get a chance to see how different people do it in different parts. I actually had Randy Sullivan's kid at FIU, believe it or not, Ty Sullivan.
Wow, really?
That was a whole another story, an interesting one, and he's a great kid, and I still talk to Randy all the time. He's done obviously some tremendous things, and I was kind of in the forefront of when he started his academy over there in Florida. And
was that when he had the Armory?
The Armory, that's right.
Yeah,
the Armory,
I'm a nerd. I've been following this stuff for a long time, been working at this stuff for a long time. So I actually knew a kid who is from my area in Florida that went to St. Pete JUCO and then was training at the Armory. And he was like one of the first ones to throw 100 there. And then now he's with the Angels. He ended up being the driveline guy there. But that little place was like the idea that I saw where I was like, oh my God, if I was to build an academy, like this is an office building with like 3 nets. That's all it was. It was crazy.
Man, he's done a phenomenal job since he was there. And Ty, I still talk to Ty too. He got married not too long ago. So that was pretty cool. Pretty cool to see him do all that stuff.
Definitely.
I have one more thing, but it might take too long. What do you got, Sam? You got 5 more minutes?
Yeah. Go ahead, man. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to. This is simply we're looking for feedback. I keep on asking a lot of our guys this, our pitching guys, how we've been discussing sequences, and I'm not looking for do you like it? I'm just curious if it's in line with the way that you've thought about it, because I just hadn't thought about it this way before. So this is kudos to John, but he just, first off, I've heard him talk about like simplifying things into fast, slow. And so we would go to live at bats and he'd just be like, hitters, watch our fast, slow patterns. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, they're doing the same exact thing. And then we've expanded that into thinking, okay, you talk about getting to 2 strikes as quickly as possible. So we like the idea of teaching 4 pitch sequences. Okay. So I think the idea that I don't like is all of this attention to the count, because all we care about is just executing pitches to get to those counts, right? So like, I feel like, oh, it's 2-0, I have to throw certain things. Well, no, it's the 3rd pitch of my sequence, and I'm going to throw whatever I plan to throw in this sequence. So we're teaching just simply,
whether you're 2-0 or 0-2, that 3rd pitch is being thrown no matter what.
Well, but then there's context to it, right? So you have an idea of like in that sequence, if I do get 0-2, what is that 3rd? So if I go fast, fast, slow, slow, right? So if I'm in a 2-0, right, and my slow, I'm a slider guy, so I'm just plopping that slider over. But if I'm 0-2, that's the nasty back foot slider to the lefty, or I'm backdooring it to a, whatever. So I think that's where the coaching comes out of it. So I think this is where I'm excited about the idea, because it's a way to teach a 9-year-old, hey, can you just master like 3 to 4 sequences? Fast, fast, slow, 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 fast, fast, right? Just give them whatever you think is simple, and then grow out of that. And I've never heard that perspective before, and I think it's kind of smart. So, but I don't know. I think maybe it seems to me that it's simplifying.
Yeah, I would even suggest that you add, maybe we do a thing called leverage, right? We talk about leverage pitching when we do our sequencing. So you talk about going fast, fast, slow, slow, and whether you're 0-2 or 2-0, that slow third pitch is coming, but maybe you let them understand the concept of leverage. Like you said, if it's an 0-2 pitch, it's a count leverage. I always talk about count leverage. So let's say we're doing our sequence of 4 pitches, and instead of us focusing so much on the count, we're 1-1, we're 2-0, we're 0-2. It's more of, I have count leverage here. This is what I'm going to do with my count leverage breaking ball. I don't have count leverage here. What do I have to do with my count leverage stuff? And with the fastball as well. I always talk about, hey, with the fastball, with count leverage, our misses are different than when we're behind in the count. It's just, you got to understand, where you're at in the process.
Well, so I think it might be a little biased towards younger players. I'll admit that, but I also think that I treat a lot of my college players pretty similar to a lot of my 9 and 10-year-olds, and so I think it's a way to introduce ideas. John talked about that back foot changeup. That it might be simply like, hey, I think what I'm getting at is I like the idea of going fast, fast, slow, slow, and being able to go, I don't care how executed it is. It's just that's a sequence that you got to just like, marry yourself to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then the coaching part of it is like, it's simple, right? This kid can throw a changeup that's competitive no matter the leverage of the situation, because that's his go-to thing. You know what I mean? Just like you put me in a 2-0 count and you're getting a slider 95% of the time. Like, it's just my go-to thing in my head, and I just don't see why that's any different than these sequences. And I think, and you just, again, I don't even know how to ask this question. It's just thoughts, right? At this point, this is the birth of ideas. We're talking with Gene Larkin and Kerry Leitenberg the other day. And Kerry basically told us that he just went fast, fast, slow the whole entire career. So he was going to go until he got 2 strikes. He was just going to go fastballs away to everybody.
Yeah.
And it's like, we know that can work, but what if he just had simply 3 sequences instead of only 1.5? Because, right, it was like in leverage situations, he was just going to go straight to his slider. And if in unleveraged situations, he just went all fastball. And I just think there's a simpler option. Like, I don't know.
So here's what I think on. I think the game's evolved so much where if you take your guys, whether it's a college guy or a young guy, and you teach them those sequences and they master it and they have a 3-pitch sequence, that's awesome. Let's say it's a younger kid, you've done wonders with him because he's got 3-pitch. He's got a 3 different 3-pitch sequence he could go to. Now, let's say he comes to me. I could help him. I could take that concept that he has and evolve from it. Be like, okay, these are leverage pitches.
Exactly.
Everybody nowadays has video, right? So we got to be a little careful in what we do. We can't just have one sequence, right? Because everyone has video and what all the pitchers try to do. I mean, we chart everything, we video everything, synergy, everything. So now you could say one of your sequences could be, instead of that third pitch being the soft, we're going to go fast, 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 just to keep guys off balance.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
of course, one of the biggest things that we do and where a lot of our punch outs come in, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but it doesn't matter. We're going to switch it up as we go, is we like to start or end the game, depending on, we'll go fastball, show a fastball up. Guys are expecting a breaking ball, and we stay with the fastball. And we ram it inside, right?
Yep.
Until they make an adjustment, and they've seen it enough to where it really opens up to a point that we throw a bad breaking ball next time, where we've gone fastball, fastball in twice.
Yep.
And we did the same thing, but we thrown a bad breaking ball. You see like the little shake in it, and it's like, okay, this was a bad breaking ball, but he was clearly looking for something different.
Exactly.
So we try to switch it up as it goes. So I think it's a good thing, and I think they just have to evolve at every level. So whether, just like when you do that and you show them their 3-pitch sequence, I take it and I say, okay, the guys are going to be watching video. This is what we have to do. They move on from me, and now they have to understand that there's even other types of video going on. There's the Astros banging a trash can in the drum, right? So you got to understand, you got to even take it to a different level on that. So I think all of that, if you could teach them, it's step one to how they could use it. It's another tool what they could use moving forward.
Yeah, that's a great way. Thank you for saying it that way. Just because we're handing off a kid who's more prepared to a college coach when they have simple ideas like that.
Exactly.
And how many kids have zero concept of something as simple as that coming to the college level? I'm not, you don't even have to say anything to that, but we know it happens more often than it should.
Absolutely. No doubt.
Yeah,
I love that.
Fun. It's fun. I've actually been executing with we got a gangster 10-year-old. He's 10 now. And he's fastball cutter change. And he absolutely loves it. And I've been doing remote stuff with him here, and we've been giving him homework to go play the show and then watch old video or watch old games and executing these sequences. And and I think, Cass, did we come up with 12 of them? I guess we should probably write it down, huh?
So if you have two pitches and 3 sequences, there's only 8 variations of that. And then if you do that with 4 pitches, 4 sequences, then it's like 16 or something. So it's just bringing to light, introducing it to people to be like, hey, this isn't that scary. People make it seem so complicated, right? If you just do 2 pitches, we have a lot of different ways to get people out.
You know what's funny, man? That's funny you guys say the show, and it's not that complicated. I kid you not. I'm not making this story up. So my 4-year-old, he plays that, not the show. It's called like MLB 9 innings on his iPad. He's 4 years old.
Yeah.
4 years old. During this whole quarantine, he's played it. I give him 30 minutes to an hour to play it before he's got to do his Zoom classroom. And yesterday, he's like, hey, Dad, let's play it. Play with me. And he comes up with sequences himself. So he told me every time I throw a ball, I can throw the ball right here, and they always swing and miss, unless they're a diamond player. Then the diamond players don't do it. So and even at an early age, they understand the concept of putting pitches together and what works and what doesn't work. So that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny you say that, and pretty cool. And I think if you get them to understand, they're that much more prepared when they come to us. And it's up to us. It's up to us as coaches to listen to what they like to do. And if we say, hey, no, we're going to do it this way, then we're going to screw that kid up, But if the kid comes up and says, hey, I've been working on this 3-pitch sequence, I say, okay, well, let's start with that. Know that we're going to have to evolve from that because hitters are going to make an adjustment, but let's force the hitter to make an adjustment based on you being completely efficient with this first. And that's how we could evolve from it.
Yeah.
I actually want to go a little deeper into the idea because I find it it really changed my career, not only for me executing sequences, but evaluating hitters from the bench to know what I was doing going into the game. Yep. And I when I was down in Mexico playing, I would sit right next to our manager and I would just talk to him or the hitting coach about what he saw on the hitter and where he was going. And so then, you have your basic scouting report that I'm sure you're probably used to, who swings the first pitch, who swings the second pitch, who swings after a strike, who green lights everything. You know what I mean? So I had these things in my ideas, and I started just going fast, slow with it, following the pitcher and putting stuff out there. And all of a sudden I started seeing holes. And then it made more sense when I was applying and then studying the fast, slow concepts where we have some of the best relievers in the game. Rivera, we're both cutter guys, right? We're all cutter fans here. And if you look at how he threw his cutter and what he would do it in situations, he didn't just, people want to argue that he had one pitch. I'm like, no. This guy had the asterisk, like the lower half of the asterisk of pitch movement. Like he could make his cutter go flat, angle, down. He could sink it. It could run completely. It was white through everything. It was very impressive to watch him do his stuff, right? So I started looking at like the way he evaluated, his slow, but his best slow pitches and his banger cutters and when he would throw them and where he would throw it. And then compared that to other guys that would be brought into the game that had multiple pitches that would do stuff. And you'd see that like slow, fast, or slow, fast, slow, or things like that. Majority of the time, big leaguers in RBI situations started doing that. So I just started applying that to my game and being like, well, what is my best slow, right? What is going to be a good different variation of the slow, right? So you start creating maybe like you would go cutter, slider, change, fast, right? And it would just, maybe that's what I needed to do on that guy, that righty, because I'm using my advantage on right. But then again, maybe not. Maybe it was better for me he saw nothing but breaking balls the whole day, so I can't come in and do the same thing. Right. And so like it just made it easier for me to literally process the game in the pen to know I needed to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the scouting report. So there's 2 parts to that, right? So I have our starting pitcher who throws the next day. So let's say we're on a Friday game. The Saturday guy is charting every single pitch for me, right, next to me. And there's times where I'll ask him, like, we're in a 2-2 count, and I'm like, hey, I think I'm gonna go fastball in here. What do you think? What do you got? What do you got? And I force him to give me a decision to see what the pitch is. That way he's thinking along, and he knows what he wants to do the next day against that team. And where, trust me, I've contemplated this. I've wanted to like have our pitchers just call every single pitch and me get completely away from it. The only reason why I don't do that yet is because the parts that of me is the tendencies, like you talked about. Every college coach has hitting guys have so much tendencies that those guys don't get to see. We have our guys in our conference that try to be sneaky, and they get 2 quick outs, and the assistant calls over the guy for a meeting, and he's thinking that we're just going to go fastball down the middle so the guy could go ahead and double. So where he's trying to play a psychological game of, hey, you're taking this pitch, that's why I'm calling you over here to give our pitcher more time. No, he's letting them go ahead and go based on who it is. And I've seen these on videos. So that's the time where I'm like, okay, he's trying something here. Even though we got 2 quick outs on 3 pitches and it says, let's go fastball here, we're going to go a little change up because I know he's swinging. So that's the part of me that still doesn't want to take it away from them, just the whole study or me still be involved in it. But as the years go, I give those guys more and more freedom to do what they have to do, especially the starters. I haven't quite gotten to a point where I could give the relievers enough information because we don't know when they're coming in and who they're coming in to face. You know, I have an idea. Hey, these 3 lefties in a row hit in the middle of the lineup. You 2 left-handers, be ready. You know, but the starters, they're able to break everything down. Hey, if they do this and that, they're going to probably look to do this. You know, every time after a pitching visit, they're going to try to steal. I'm going to go ahead and pick. So those type of things is why I still have my hands on it. But as the years go by, man, I just contemplate this idea. I just want them to call every pitch on their own, not even ask me for it. But, you know, I think eventually we'll figure out a way to get to that point. But the importance of them understanding what the hitters are doing is huge, man. Just like you talked about being right there next to coach in the front line of it, right in front of the dugout. You know, we kind of force our starters to do the same thing.
I think I want to say something like, don't be afraid to assume that you're right. Right? So if you look at a dude's swing and it's like that swing is going in and out of the zone real quick, don't overthink that.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that I think that a lot of the young, you know, players that we talk to, you know, just, you know, John always brings up the video game, but that's the thing is they're not like actively involved in it. So I think that's the more that you get kids that aren't as actively involved in their pitch calling, I imagine that that's probably something to do with you driving that. It's like, God, I got to freaking do it. Somebody's got to do it because I'm shoving guys to the bigs all the time. So we're at like,
it's got to be a happy medium, and we'll you know, it's still. Trust me, I contemplate this all the time on it, but you know, I think we have a good balance at our place where the guys trust me, and I think they trust me based on me giving them all the information that I'm seeing, so they understand what I'm seeing, and having the luxury to have their own opinion of stuff as well.
But you can't expect them to know the third base coach. You know what I mean?
That's the part of it. Yeah. But you know what's pretty cool is we have bullpen guys. The older bullpen guys have come in and they'll come from one side of the dugout where they're cheering their teammates on and being goofy and silly, and we have to pull the rope a little bit because some of the stuff they're saying is not appropriate, right? So I've had them come to my side of the dugout and say, hey, you could go in on this guy, you know, and I'm like, okay, cool, it's on you right now, you know, so let's do it. So, and they're not even on the mound, so I think that's a pretty cool thing. They're not on the mound and they're telling me what they think I should call for this pitch for their teammate that's on the mound. So I think that's kind of the good culture that we've had in our pitching staff, and it takes time to do it. And once you're in a system for 1 or 2 years, they kind of coach themselves. And I think that's, you know, as I stay at a place longer and longer, the falls get easier and easier with our older guys taking charge.
Yeah, that's well, Sam, it's been a little bit of a time. We're running up on the end of our podcast here. This has been an unbelievable insight into your program. I really appreciate it. I know our community is really going to enjoy what they're hearing. It's really in line with a lot of the stuff we've been saying about how baseball, needs to be going, where it is, and it's very refreshing. So I appreciate you coming on. This is tremendous recruiting tool for the city of San Diego and the area.
No, I appreciate you
so
guys.
Exciting.
I appreciate you guys having me on. And when this thing kind of clears up and opens up, we'll go ahead and go pay a visit. I know you guys got a new facility out here, and all I ask is, how do I get one of those hats, man?
I got you.
We got. They're on the
site.
One's perfect. That one's perfect for recruiting, right there, man.
Yeah, the red one. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
The red
I got
and black
you.
For the Aztecs.
I got you for sure. Yeah, I'm a little bit of that gear guy. Christmas, when we had those 2 Christmases when I was playing, you had the first when you got there, you got your, your practice stuff and the shorts. And then, the week before the season, I was always just, so excited. So I wanted to keep that going. Yeah.
Nike takes good care of us, man. I'll bring some.
Oh yeah. You guys have great gear for sure. Definitely.
Let me know when you guys open up, and I'll bring some treats for you guys too.
Oh, sounds good. We want to support the area as best we can and keep going. And, we've got guys that are on the list. Matter of fact, one of them commented in here. One of our guys, Octavio Sanchez, says hello.
Okay.
And he's finished over at Southwestern Community College. So anyway, appreciate it again, guys. Sam's over at San Diego State. You can check out his information on the San Diego State website. Is there anything that you'd like to finish up with, touch on?
No, man, I just appreciate all you guys doing, and for all the athletes out there, just stay in shape. I know it's difficult times. I know some seniors are kind of starting to panic with what's going on. Hey, the JUCO route, this is going to make the junior colleges stronger. I know when you played, John, the junior colleges, when Cass, they were really a big thing, not only for player development, but for growing as a man. So I think it's going to make them stronger, and you just keep working and you'll get to where you want to be. It's just, just a little setback, but you'll be fine. Just work hard through it.
Definitely. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Thanks again. Have a good one. Sam, stay safe, and we'll talk to you again soon. All right.
Thanks again, guys. I appreciate you guys.
Yep.
Thank you guys.